Victoria Sterling adjusted her black designer suit one more time as she walked into the fancy restaurant downtown. At 52, she was one of the most powerful women in the tech world. Her company, Sterling Tech, was worth billions. People feared her in boardrooms. She never showed weakness. Tonight was no different. She had an important business dinner with investors from Japan. The restaurant was exactly the kind of place Victoria preferred for business meetings. Expensive, quiet, with perfect lighting that made everyone look successful. She checked her diamond watch. 7:30 sharp. Right on time, just like always. The Japanese investors were already waiting at the corner table. 3 men in dark suits, all smiles and bows. Victoria put on her business face and walked over. This deal could bring millions to her company. She needed to focus completely. "Mr. Tanaka, so wonderful to meet you in person," Victoria said, shaking hands with the lead investor. Her voice was confident and smooth. She had done this dance 1,000 times before. The dinner started perfectly. They talked about market growth, technology trends, and profit projections. Victoria felt comfortable in this world of numbers and deals. It was safe, predictable, nothing like the chaos her personal life had been 15 years ago. She ordered the salmon. The investors chose beef. Everyone was polite and professional. Victoria's mind was completely focused on the presentation she would give after dinner. This partnership could expand her company into Asia. It was the kind of opportunity she had worked her whole life to create. But then something happened that changed everything. A young woman approached their table. She looked about 23, with long brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore the restaurant's standard black uniform, white shirt, black pants, small name tag. Just another server doing her job. "Good evening, everyone. I'm Kate, and I'll be taking care of you tonight. Can I start you with some appetizers?" the young woman said with a bright smile. Victoria glanced up from her menu to answer, but the words never came out. Around the young woman's neck was a silver necklace. Not just any necklace. It was delicate and beautiful, with a butterfly pendant that caught the restaurant's soft lighting. Victoria knew that necklace. She knew every detail of it. The room suddenly felt cold. Victoria's hands started shaking under the table. Her heart began racing so fast she thought it might explode. The business dinner, the investors, the $1 million deal, everything disappeared. That necklace belonged to her daughter. 15 years ago, Victoria had that exact piece of jewelry made for her little girl's 8th birthday. They were on vacation, in Europe, visiting small shops and eating ice cream. Victoria had found a tiny jewelry store in Prague, run by an old man who created custom pieces. She spent hours describing exactly what she wanted. "I want something special for my daughter," Victoria had told the jeweler. "She loves butterflies. Make it unique, something no one else in the world will have." The old man had smiled and created magic. The butterfly was made from silver, with tiny details carved by hand. Inside the pendant was a small space for a photo and an engraving in Czech that said, "Forever in my heart." Victoria had given the necklace to her daughter just 2 months before everything went wrong, before the worst day of her life. Before her baby girl disappeared and never came home. Now, 15 years later, that same necklace was right in front of her. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Kate the server asked, looking concerned. "You look pale." Victoria tried to speak, but no words came out. She stared at the young woman's face for the first time. Really looked at her. Kate had beautiful eyes, one brown, one green. Different colors, just like Victoria's own grandmother. Just like the daughter she had lost. I'm fine," Victoria finally managed to say. Her voice sounded strange even to herself. The Japanese investors were looking at her with confusion. Mr. Tanaka asked something about the wine list, but Victoria couldn't focus on his words. All she could see was that butterfly necklace moving, slightly as Kate wrote down their order. Victoria's mind raced back to that terrible day 15 years ago. She had been building her company then, working long hours but always making time for her daughter. They lived in a nice house in the suburbs. Life was good, even though Victoria's marriage was falling apart. Her husband Daniel had been acting strange for months. Always on the phone, always worried about money. Victoria was making good income from her growing business, but Daniel kept saying they needed more. He made bad investments and borrowed money from people Victoria never met. The morning her daughter disappeared, Victoria had been at an important meeting downtown. Her husband was supposed to pick up their little girl from school. When Victoria came home that evening, the house was empty. Daniel was gone. Their daughter was gone. No note, no explanation, nothing. The police searched everywhere. Victoria hired private investigators. She offered reward money. She appeared on television, begging for her daughter's return. But weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. Eventually, everyone told Victoria to accept that her daughter was gone forever. But Victoria never gave up hope. She kept her daughter's room exactly the same. She celebrated every birthday alone, buying presents that no one would open. She built her company bigger and bigger, thinking that maybe someday her success could help her find her lost child. Now, staring at this young server, Victoria felt like she was dreaming. "That's a beautiful necklace," Victoria said quietly when Kate came back with their drinks. Kate touched the butterfly pendant and smiled. "Thank you. It's very special to me. My parents gave it to me when I turned 18, but they said I had when I was little too." Victoria's heart stopped. "When you were little?" "Well, I was adopted," Kate explained, still smiling. "My parents found me at a children's home when I was 8. I don't remember much from before then, but I had this necklace with me. The people at the home said it was the only thing I brought." The restaurant seemed to spin around Victoria. She gripped the edge of the table to steady herself. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen in real life. But Kate kept talking. "I always wondered where it came from. It feels important, you know? Like it connects me to whoever I was. Before, Mr. Tanaka was trying to get Victoria's attention, but she couldn't look away from Kate. The young woman had the same gentle way of speaking that Victoria remembered. The same kind eyes. Even her smile was familiar. "Do you remember anything else? From when you were 8? Victoria asked. Kate thought for a moment. "Not much. I remember loving butterflies. I had a stuffed rabbit I carried everywhere. And I used to hum this song, but I never knew where I learned it." Victoria's world stopped completely. The stuffed rabbit's name was Hopscotch. The song was a lullaby Victoria had made up herself, something she sang every night at bedtime. No one else in the world knew that song. "Excuse me," Victoria said suddenly, standing up from the table. "I need some fresh air." She walked quickly toward the restaurant's exit, her mind spinning with impossible possibilities. Behind her, she could hear Mr. Tanaka calling her name, but she couldn't stop. She needed to think. She needed to breathe. Outside in the parking lot, Victoria leaned against her car and tried to calm down. Maybe she was imagining things. Maybe she wanted to find her daughter so badly that she was seeing connections that weren't there. But that necklace was unique. The old jeweler in Prague had promised her it was one of a kind. And Kate's eyes, her voice, the way she moved, everything felt familiar. Victoria pulled out her phone and almost called her assistant. Then she stopped. What would she say? That she thought she found her missing daughter working as a server in a restaurant? It sounded crazy even to her. She looked back through the restaurant's windows. Kate was taking orders at another table, the butterfly necklace catching the light as she moved. Victoria had built a billion-dollar company by trusting her instincts. Her gut told her this was real. But 15 years was a long time. If this really was her daughter, Kate didn't remember her. She had built a new life with new parents. Victoria couldn't just walk back in and destroy that, or could she? Victoria stood in the parking lot for 20 minutes, watching Kate work through the window. The young woman was kind to every customer, always smiling, always patient. She had grown up to be exactly the type of person Victoria had hoped she would become. Finally, Victoria made a decision. She couldn't let this chance slip away. She had to know the truth, no matter how scary it might be. She walked back into the restaurant, past the confused investors, and waited by the bar until Kate's shift was over. It was going to be a long night, but Victoria had waited 15 years for this moment. She could wait a few more hours. Victoria sat in her black Mercedes in the restaurant parking lot, watching the clock on her dashboard. 11:45. Kate's shift would end in 15 minutes. Victoria's hands were still shaking from what had happened during dinner. 2. Japanese investors had left confused and angry. Victoria had ruined a $1 million deal by walking out in the middle of their conversation. But right now she didn't care about money or business. All she could think about was that butterfly necklace and the young woman wearing it. Victoria had called her assistant and canceled all her meetings for the next day. She told her secretary she had a family emergency, which wasn't exactly a lie. This could be the biggest family emergency of her life. At exactly midnight, Kate walked out of the restaurant's back door. She had changed out of her work uniform and was wearing jeans and a simple sweater. The butterfly necklace was still around her neck, catching the light from the parking lot lamps. Victoria took a deep breath and got out of her car. Her heart was beating so fast she thought Kate might hear it. "Excuse me," Victoria called out softly. Kate turned around, surprised to see the well-dressed woman from dinner. "Oh, hello. Aren't you the lady from table 12? Is everything okay? You left so suddenly." "Yes, I'm Victoria Sterling. I know this might sound strange, but could we talk for a few minutes? There's something important I need to ask you." Kate looked nervous. It was midnight and a stranger was approaching her in a parking lot. Victoria realized how this must look. "I understand if you're concerned," Victoria said quickly. "We could go somewhere public. There's a coffee shop down the street that stays open all night. I'll buy you coffee and explain everything." Kate studied Victoria's face. Something in the older woman's eyes made her feel safe. "Okay, but just for a little while. I have classes tomorrow morning." The coffee shop was nearly empty. Just a few night shift workers and students studying for exams. Victoria ordered 2 coffees and they sat at a corner table where they could talk privately. "This is going to sound crazy," Victoria began, "but I think we might be connected somehow." Kate stirred sugar into her coffee and waited. "That necklace you're wearing," Victoria continued. "Where exactly did you get it?" "I told you at the restaurant. My adoptive parents gave it to me." "But you said you had it when you were little, before the adoption." Kate nodded. "The people at the children's home said I was wearing it when someone brought me there. I was 8 years old and I couldn't remember anything about my life before that night." Victoria's heart was pounding. "What else do you remember?" "Anything. At all?" Kate thought carefully. "I remember being scared and confused. I didn't know where I was or how I got there. The workers at the home were kind, but I kept asking for my mama." She paused. "I haven't thought about that in years." "What? Did you call your mama?" Victoria asked quietly. "Just mama, I think. But sometimes—" Kate closed her eyes, trying to remember. "Sometimes I think I called her something else. Something that started with an M." Victoria's breath caught. Her daughter had always called her Mama V because she couldn't say Victoria when she was little. "Did you have any toys with you?" Victoria asked. "A stuffed rabbit, brown and white, with one ear that was chewed up. I carried it everywhere for years until it finally fell apart." Victoria had to grip her coffee cup to keep her hands steady. The rabbit's name was Hopscotch, and her daughter had chewed on its ear when she was teething. "Kate, I need to tell you something, and I want you to listen carefully. 15 years ago, I had a daughter who disappeared. She was 8 years old. She had a necklace exactly like yours, and a stuffed rabbit, and she used to call me Mama V." Kate's coffee cup stopped halfway to her lips. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I think you might be my daughter." The coffee shop suddenly felt very quiet. Kate set down her cup and stared at Victoria. "That's impossible," Kate whispered. "Is it?" "Look at my eyes, Kate. Really look at them." Kate looked into Victoria's face and gasped. Victoria had the same unusual eyes, one brown, one green, just like Kate's. "This is crazy," Kate said, but her voice was shaking. People don't just find their missing children in restaurants after 15 years. I know it sounds impossible, but that necklace is one of a kind. I had it made by a special jeweler in Prague. Inside the butterfly there should be a tiny photo and some words in Czech. Kate's hand went to her necklace. I never opened it. I was always afraid I might break it. The words say forever in my heart in Czech. And the photo, Victoria, pulled out her phone and showed Kate an old picture. The photo is of me and a little girl with your eyes, taken the day I gave her the necklace. Kate stared at the photo. The little girl looked exactly like Kate had looked in her few childhood pictures from the children's home. I don't understand, Kate said. If you're my mother, where have you been? Why didn't you find me? Victoria's eyes filled with tears. I tried everything. I hired investigators, I offered rewards, I never stopped looking, but you disappeared completely. No one could find any trace of you. But how did I end up at the children's home? What happened to me? I don't know. That's what we need to figure out. Victoria leaned forward. Kate, I know this is overwhelming, but would you be willing to take a DNA test? Just to be sure? Kate was quiet for a long time. Victoria could see her mind working, trying to process everything. I always wondered about my real family, Kate finally said. I love my adoptive parents, but there was always this empty feeling inside me, like I was missing pieces of myself. Tell me about your adoptive parents. They're wonderful people. David and Helen Chen. They found me when I was 8 and took me home 2 years later. They've given me everything. Love, education, support. They never made me feel like I wasn't their real daughter. Victoria felt a mix of gratitude and sadness. She was thankful that Kate had found love and care, but heartbroken that she had missed 10 years of her daughter's life. Do they know you're here with me? Victoria asked. No, I just told them I was working late. Kate checked her phone. Actually, I should call them. They worry when I'm out this late. Kate called her adoptive mother and explained she had met someone and was having coffee. Victoria could hear the concern in Mrs. Chen's voice through the phone. I should probably go home, Kate said after hanging up. This is a lot to think about. Of course. But Kate, before you go, there's something else I need to tell you. Victoria hesitated. She didn't want to scare Kate, but she needed to be honest. When you disappeared 15 years ago, it wasn't random. Someone took you, and I think your adoptive parents might be in danger. Kate's face went pale. What do you mean? If someone finds out that we've found each other, they might try to stop us from learning the truth. The people who took you, they might still be out there. As if Victoria's words had summoned trouble, Kate's phone rang. It was Mrs. Chen, and she sounded panicked. Kate, you need to come home right now. Someone broke into our house. They didn't take anything valuable, but they went through all your old papers from when you were little. The police are here. Kate stood up quickly. I have to go. I'm coming with you, Victoria said. No, I don't think that's a good idea. This is too much, too fast. Victoria understood, but she was terrified. If someone had broken into the Chen house looking for information about Kate's past, it meant they were being watched. Kate, please be careful. If I'm right about who you are, then there are people who don't want us to find each other. Kate looked into Victoria's eyes one more time. Despite everything, she felt a strange connection to this woman. Something deep inside her said Victoria was telling the truth. Give me your phone number, Kate said. I need time to think, but I want to talk more tomorrow. Victoria quickly wrote down her number. Kate, promise me you'll be careful. And if anything strange happens, call me immediately. Kate nodded and hurried out of the coffee shop. Victoria watched her drive away in an old Honda, wishing she could follow and make sure Kate got home safely. Victoria sat alone in the coffee shop for another hour, trying to process everything that had happened. After 15 years of searching, she might have finally found her daughter, but instead of feeling happy, she felt scared. Someone had broken into the Chen house on the same night she and Kate met. That couldn't be a coincidence. Someone was watching them, and that someone didn't want the truth to come out. Victoria pulled out her phone and called her head of security. She was going to need protection, and Kate was going to need it too. whether she realized it or not. The game had begun, and Victoria had no idea who the players were or what they were willing to do to keep their secrets buried. Victoria didn't sleep at all that night. She paced around her empty mansion, thinking about Kate and worrying about the break-in at the Chen house. Every few minutes, she checked her phone to see if Kate had called or sent a message. Nothing. By 6 in the morning, Victoria couldn't wait anymore. She drove to the address Kate had mentioned, a small house in a quiet neighborhood about 20 minutes from downtown. Police cars were still parked outside. Victoria sat in her car across the street watching. She saw Kate come out of the house with an older Asian woman who must be Mrs. Chen. They hugged, and Kate got into her old Honda to leave for school. Victoria wanted to follow Kate, but she knew that would scare her. Instead, she waited until Kate was gone, then walked up to the Chen house. Mrs. Chen was sweeping broken glass from her front porch when Victoria approached. "Excuse me, Mrs. Chen. I'm Victoria. Sterling, I met your daughter Kate last night." Mrs. Chen looked up suspiciously. "You're the woman she had coffee with?" "Yes, I heard about the break-in. I'm very sorry this happened to your family." Mrs. Chen studied Victoria's face. "Kate told me you think you might be her birth mother. That's a pretty big claim to make." Victoria nodded. "I know how it sounds, but Mrs. Chen, I don't think this break-in was random. I think it's connected to Kate and me meeting last night." "What do you mean? Can we talk privately? There are things about Kate's past that you need to know." Mrs. Chen hesitated, then invited Victoria inside. The house was small but warm and comfortable. Family photos covered every surface, showing Kate growing up with the Chens, birthdays, graduations, family vacations. Victoria felt both grateful and heartbroken seeing how loved Kate had been. "Tell me what you know," Mrs. Chen said, sitting across from Victoria in the living room. Victoria explained everything: her missing daughter, the unique necklace, Kate's memory loss, the stuffed rabbit. Mrs. Chen listened quietly, her face growing more serious with each detail. "I always knew this day might come," Mrs. Chen finally said. "Kate was different from the other children at the home. She was so scared and confused. She kept asking for her mama, but she couldn't remember anything else." "Did the authorities ever find out how she got there?" "No. Someone just dropped her off in the middle of the night and drove away. No one saw the person's face or got a license plate number. It was like she appeared out of nowhere." Mrs. Chen stood up and walked to a cabinet. She pulled out a thick folder. "I've been collecting information about Kate's past for years. I hired a private investigator 5 years ago when Kate turned 18. I thought she deserved to know where she came from." Victoria's heart raced. "What did you find?" "Not much at first. But recently my investigator discovered something interesting." Mrs. Chen opened the folder and pulled out several papers. "There was a child trafficking ring operating in this area 15 years ago. They specialized in taking children from wealthy families." Victoria felt sick. "Trafficking?" "The police broke up the ring eventually, but not before they had taken dozens of children. Most were never found." Mrs. Chen looked at Victoria sadly. "I think Kate might have been one of their victims." Victoria's hands were shaking as she looked through the papers. There were newspaper articles about missing children, police reports, and lists of families who had lost kids during that time period. "Mrs. Chen, someone broke into your house the same night Kate and I met. They took documents about Kate's past. I don't think that's a coincidence." "Neither do I," Mrs. Chen said, grimly. "My investigator warned me that some people involved in the trafficking ring were never caught. If they're still out there, they might not want Kate's story to come to light." Victoria felt a chill run down her spine. "We need to protect Kate. She doesn't realize how much danger she might be in." "I've been trying to protect her for years," Mrs. Chen said. "But now that you've found each other, everything is changing." Victoria's phone buzzed. It was a text message from an unknown number. "Stop looking into the past or both Kate and the Chen family will pay the price." Victoria showed the message to Mrs. Chen, who went pale. "We need to call the police," Mrs. Chen said. "No, Victoria said quickly. If the police get involved, whoever sent this message might panic and do something to hurt Kate. We need to be smarter about this. Then what do you suggest? Victoria thought for a moment. I want to hire the best private security team in the city. People who can protect Kate and your family without being obvious about it. And I want to find out who's behind these threats. Mrs. Chen nodded. My investigator might be able to help. His name is Robert Walsh. He's been working on cases like this for 20 years. Can you call him? Within an hour, Robert Walsh was sitting in the Chen living room. He was a thin man in his 60s with sharp eyes and a serious expression. He listened to Victoria's story without interrupting. I remember your case, he told Victoria. 15 years ago, your daughter's disappearance was big news. The police worked on it for months, but they never found anything. That's because they were looking in the wrong places, Walsh said. The trafficking ring was very sophisticated. They had connections inside the police department, social services, even some judges. They could make children disappear completely. Victoria felt angry and helpless. How is that possible? Money and fear, Walsh said simply. They paid off some people and scared others into silence. The operation was run by a man named Vincent Cross. He's in prison now, but some of his associates were never caught. Do you think Kate was taken by this ring? I'm almost certain of it. The timing fits. The method fits. And the fact that she was found with no memory at a children's home fits their pattern perfectly. Mrs. Chen leaned forward. But why would they take her to a children's home instead of selling her? Something must have gone wrong, Walsh explained. Maybe Kate tried to escape, or maybe the buyers changed their minds. When their plans fell apart, they probably panicked and abandoned her at the home. Victoria felt sick thinking about what her 8-year-old daughter must have gone through. Who else was involved? Who's still out there? Walsh pulled out his own folder of documents. Cross had several partners. Most were caught, but 2 are still missing. One is a woman named Linda Hayes, who worked in social services. She helped falsify documents and place children with fake families. The other is... Walsh paused and looked at Victoria carefully. Who? Victoria demanded. Your ex-husband, Daniel Sterling. The room went completely silent. Victoria felt like she couldn't breathe. That's impossible, she whispered. I'm sorry, Victoria, but the evidence is clear. Daniel was in serious debt 15 years ago. He owed money to very dangerous people. The trafficking ring offered to clear his debts in exchange for information about wealthy families with children. Victoria stood up and started pacing. You're saying Daniel helped them take our daughter? I think he gave them information about your family's schedule and routines. He might not have known they were planning to take Kate permanently. He probably thought it would be temporary, just to scare you into paying his debts. Victoria felt rage building inside her. Where is he now? That's the problem. Daniel disappeared right after Kate was taken. He hasn't been seen in 15 years, but I think he's still alive, and I think he's been watching you. Mrs. Chen looked confused. Why would he be watching Victoria? Because he's afraid, Walsh explained. If Kate ever remembers what happened, or if the truth comes out, Daniel will go to prison for the rest of his life. He's been hiding all these years, but now that you and Kate have found each other, he's running out of time. Victoria's phone buzzed again. Another message from an unknown number. Meet me at the old cabin tonight at midnight. Come alone. It's time to tell Kate the truth about what really happened. Victoria showed the message to Walsh and Mrs. Chen. It's from Daniel, Victoria said, her voice shaking with anger. You can't go, Mrs. Chen said immediately. It's too dangerous. She's right, Walsh agreed. This could be a trap. Victoria looked at both of them. But what if he's telling the truth? What if he really wants to explain what happened? Kate deserves to know the full story. And what if he wants to hurt you to keep his secret safe? Mrs. Chen asked. Victoria thought about Kate, working at the restaurant, going to school, trying to build a good life. She thought about the 15 years they had lost and all the questions that still needed answers. I have to go, Victoria said finally. But I won't go alone. Mr. Walsh, can you arrange for backup? People who can stay hidden but help if things go wrong? Walsh nodded reluctantly. I can do that. But Victoria, if Daniel is desperate enough to contact you directly, he's capable of anything. You need to be very careful. Victoria looked at Mrs. Chen. Will you stay with Kate tonight? Don't let her out of your sight. If something happens to me, she'll need you more than ever. Mrs. Chen grabbed Victoria's hand. Promise me you'll be careful. Kate has already lost one mother. She can't lose another. Victoria squeezed Mrs. Chen's hand. I promise. After tonight, we'll finally know the truth about what happened 15 years ago. But as Victoria prepared to face her ex-husband for the first time since their daughter disappeared, she couldn't shake the feeling that this confrontation would change everything, and not necessarily for the better. Victoria drove through the dark mountain roads toward the old cabin where she and Daniel had spent their last happy weekend as a family. That was just 2 weeks before their daughter disappeared. Now, 15 years later, she was going back to face the man who had destroyed their lives. Her hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. Robert Walsh and his security team were following at a distance, staying hidden but ready to help if things went wrong. Victoria wore a small recording device under her jacket. Whatever Daniel told her tonight would be captured as evidence. The cabin sat in a small clearing surrounded by tall pine trees. Victoria had bought it during the early days of her marriage, thinking it would be the perfect place for family vacations. Now it felt like a place where nightmares lived. Daniel's car was already there, an old pickup truck that had seen better days. Victoria parked next to it and took a deep breath. This was the moment she had been both hoping for and dreading for 15 years. She walked up the wooden steps to the front door. Her hand was shaking as she knocked. It's open, came a voice from inside. Daniel's voice, older and more tired than she remembered. Victoria pushed open the door and stepped inside. The cabin looked exactly the same as it had 15 years ago. Same furniture, same photographs on the walls, same stone fireplace where they used to make s'mores with their daughter. Daniel was sitting at the kitchen table with his back to her. He had aged badly. His hair was gray and thin, his shoulders bent like he was carrying a heavy weight. When he turned around, Victoria saw that his face was lined with worry and guilt. Hello, Victoria, he said quietly. Hello, Daniel. Victoria stayed near the door, ready to run if necessary. You look terrible. Daniel laughed, but there was no humor in it. 15 years of living with what I did will do that to a person. So you admit it? You were involved in taking our daughter? Daniel's face crumpled. I never meant for her to disappear forever. You have to believe that. Then tell me what you meant. Tell me everything. Daniel stood up slowly and walked to the window. He stared out at the dark forest. I was in trouble, Victoria. Big trouble. I had borrowed money from some very bad people to invest in a business deal that fell through. They wanted their money back, and they weren't the kind of people who accepted excuses. Victoria felt her anger rising. So you decided to use our daughter to solve your problems? No, it wasn't supposed to happen that way. Daniel turned around and Victoria could see tears in his eyes. They threatened to hurt you and Lily if I didn't pay them back. I was desperate. Keep talking. Daniel took a shaky breath. One of the men I owed money to knew about this operation. They said they could make my debt disappear if I helped them with one job. They needed information about a wealthy family with a young child. Victoria felt sick. Our family. I thought they just wanted to scare us. Maybe take Lily for a few hours and then demand ransom money. I never imagined they would. Daniel couldn't finish the sentence. They would what, Daniel? Sell our daughter like she was property? Daniel collapsed back into his chair. I gave them our schedules. I told them when you would be at work and when I would pick up Lily from school, but the plan went wrong. How did it go wrong? Lily was smarter than they expected. When they tried to take her from the school parking lot, she fought back. She started screaming and trying to run away. In the chaos, she hit her head on the car door. Victoria's heart broke thinking about her 8-year-old daughter fighting for her life. Then what happened? They panicked. Lily was hurt and confused. She couldn't remember who she was or where she lived. The people who were supposed to buy her changed their minds when they saw she was injured. Victoria could barely speak. So they just abandoned her? They drove her to Portland and left her at a children's home in the middle of the night. Then they disappeared. The whole operation fell apart after that. Victoria felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. And you? What did you do? I ran. I was terrified that the police would figure out what I had done. I changed my name, got fake documents, and disappeared. I've been hiding ever since. Hiding where? What have you been doing? For 15 years while I've been searching for our daughter? Daniel looked ashamed. I've been living in small towns, working construction jobs, always looking over my shoulder. I never stayed in one place for long. Victoria walked closer to Daniel. Did you ever think about coming forward? About helping me find her? Every day, but I was afraid. I knew if I told the truth I would go to prison, and I wasn't sure it would help find Lily anyway. Her name is Kate now. She doesn't remember being Lily. Daniel's eyes widened. You found her? Is she okay? No thanks to you. She grew up in foster care, never knowing who she really was or where she came from. She's been working multiple jobs to put herself through college because she has no family to help her. But she does have family. She has you. Victoria laughed bitterly. She has me now, but she's missed 15 years of having a mother, 15 years of birthday parties and bedtime stories and help with homework. You stole all of that from both of us. Daniel was crying now. I know. I've regretted it every day since it happened. I would do anything to change it. Well, you can't change it, but you can help me fix it. Victoria pulled out her phone. I'm going to call the police. You're going to tell them everything you just told me. You're going to help them find the other people involved in this trafficking ring. Daniel looked terrified. Victoria, if I cooperate with the police, there are still people out there who might try to hurt Kate. Or you. Or the Chen family. That's why we need to catch them all. As long as they're free, Kate will never be safe. You don't understand. These people have connections everywhere. Police, judges, social workers. They could make problems for Kate even if I cooperate. Victoria felt frustrated. Then what do you suggest, that we just pretend this never happened? Maybe Kate would be better off not knowing the truth. She has a good life now. Why destroy that? Victoria stared at Daniel in disbelief. Because she deserves to know who she is. Because she deserves to have her real family in her life. Because 15 years of lies is enough. Suddenly, they heard a car door slam outside. Victoria looked out the window and saw Kate walking toward the cabin. What is she doing here? Daniel asked, panicking. Victoria realized that Kate must have followed her. The young woman was brave and determined, just like she had been as a child. Kate knocked on the door. Victoria, I know you're in there. Mrs. Chen told me what happened. I'm not leaving until I get answers. Victoria looked at Daniel. This is your chance to tell our daughter the truth, to finally do the right thing. Daniel was shaking, but he nodded. Victoria opened the door. Kate stepped inside and immediately saw Daniel. She studied his face, and Victoria could see recognition dawning in her eyes. I know you, Kate said slowly. I've seen you before. In my dreams. You're the man who was supposed to pick me up from school that day. Daniel started crying harder. Lily? Is it really you? My name is Kate now. But yes, I think I'm your daughter. Kate's voice was calm, but Victoria could see the pain in her eyes. Are you the reason I lost my family? Daniel couldn't speak. He just nodded. Kate stood there for a long moment, looking at the man who had destroyed her childhood. Then she walked over and sat down across from him. Tell me everything, she said quietly. I want to know exactly what happened to me. For the next hour, Daniel repeated his story. Kate listened without interrupting, even when the details were painful to hear. Victoria watched her daughter and felt proud of her strength and maturity. When Daniel finished talking, Kate was quiet for a long time. I forgive you, she finally said. Both Victoria and Daniel looked at her in shock. You forgive him? Victoria asked. After everything he did? Kate looked at her birth mother. I forgive him because holding on to anger won't change what happened. It won't give me back those 15 years. But working together to catch the people who are still out there might help other families. Daniel looked at Kate with amazement. You're incredible. You've grown up to be exactly the kind of person your mother and I always hoped you would become. Kate smiled sadly. I had good teachers. The Chen family showed me what real love looks like. Victoria felt a stab of jealousy but also gratitude. I'm glad you had them. I'm glad you weren't alone. Kate reached across the table and took both Victoria's and Daniel's hands. I wasn't alone, and now I have even more family. It's not the way I imagined it would be, but it's real. Over the next few hours, they called Robert Walsh and the police. Daniel told his story again, this time officially. He was arrested, but he cooperated fully with the investigation. Within weeks, the remaining members of the trafficking ring were caught. 6 months later, Victoria sat in the front row at Kate's college graduation. Kate had decided to keep her chosen name but legally became Kate Chen Sterling, honoring both families who had loved her. In her graduation speech, Kate talked about resilience, forgiveness, and the different ways that families can be formed. She spoke about learning that home isn't just a place or even a group of people. It's wherever you find love and acceptance. Victoria looked around the auditorium and saw Mrs. Chen and Mr. Chen beaming with pride. Even Daniel was there, having been released on probation for his cooperation with the police. Kate's story had ended with healing instead of revenge, with hope instead of bitterness. She had found her way back to her birth family while keeping the love of her chosen family. It wasn't the fairy tale ending Victoria had dreamed of for 15 years, but it was something better. It was real.